Welcome to Talent Titans, the podcast where we bring you entrepreneurs and leaders from the global staffing industry. I'm your host, Suki Sodi. Now let's jump right on in and welcome today's Titan. Hi, welcome back to Talent Titans. I'm super excited to bring another interview in our series, Leading with Empathy. My guest today, Andrea Mancini, Vice President, ADECO Canada. Andrea, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. For those that don't know you, do you just want to give people a quick 10,000 foot view of who you are?
Yes. So thanks again for having me. I am the VP of Sales for ADECO Canada. I manage a very large team of sellers. I've been in the business for over 20 years now. And I started out as an individual contributor selling a medium-sized business across Canada. And then eventually worked my way through and into middle management and now VP of Sales.
Amazing. 20 years in the industry. Yeah, I love the fact that you started as an individual contributor. Yes. So you know what it feels
what they're
like
going through.
Oh my God, pounding the pavements, right?
Yes.
Leadership is a subject that's talked about all the time, and there's a gazillion billion books on how to lead. But I think one thing we can all agree in recent years, and I think it's COVID in many ways really helped bring this to the forefront, is the empathy part.
Yes.
Right? So that's what I really want to dive in on, is that empathy part, because a lot of people see empathy as emotion, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to come back to that bit in a second. But one of the things I really want to touch on as well is when women are leading with empathy stroke emotion, right? It's seen as, oh my God, they're so emotional. Yet when men do it, it's, oh my God, amazing leadership, right? So I'm really excited to get your perspective on how you balance empathy as a leader, as a woman in business. So let me dive straight in.
Sure.
As women in leadership roles, how has empathy shaped your journey and impacted the way you lead?
Well, first of all, especially in sales, you can't do it on your own. If I wanted to do it on my own, I wouldn't have gotten into leadership. So it's so important that you are always putting yourself in the seat of your people, right? And you need that in order to get results, in my opinion, because that's how good collaboration and creativity is generated, is when you are really coming from the point of view of what is their week in the life of, especially for a salesperson, right? You need to be able to connect with them on that level in order to get the best out of them. The great thing about sales is that it's all about results. The challenging thing about sales is that it's all about results.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Right? So first of all, you always have to put yourself in their shoes, which I do. And like you said, being an individual contributor has helped me connect on that level to say, I know what you're going through. When I was going through this is how I cope with it or how I got around it. So I think that helps with the empathy part. As far as being a woman in a leadership position and the empathy piece, I don't think about that too much, to be honest. I think empathy is empathy. Do I think it's an emotion? I do, but you can be empathetic and kind and not emotional.
So let's elaborate on that, because I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Right? 100% agree with you. So peel the layer back a little bit more for me. Sure. So I think you just said you can be empathetic. It is an emotion, but you can do it without being emotional.
Yeah.
Explain that.
Well, I think it's all how you position it. And I think it's important that when you give feedback, especially when there's underperformance or when there's a challenge in one of your associates' lives that you know is maybe affecting their performance, you have to connect with them that you understand, right? I think empathy is about, I understand what you can be going through right now. I hear you and I see you. Okay.
Oh, I love that. I hear you and I see you.
I hear you. I see you. I can only imagine how you're feeling right now. Like, these are some of the ways I can position helping and through my coaching. Help me understand, this is the goal that we have to be. This is the goal, right? This is the sales goal. This is the target. Help me understand how I can support you through knowing that you're feeling this way. I hear you and I see you. We still have a goal. We still have a goal. We still need to find a way to perform. And I'm with you every step of the way. Been
Oh, I
there,
love
done
that.
that.
I love that.
So let's talk about, what are some of your ideas to solution this? Because I don't always have all the answers. So I want to hear what your ideas are. So again, it's always, they're still people. They're
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah.
You bring your whole self to work. You don't bring your work self to work. You bring your whole self to work. And so it's not emotional. It's about connecting with them on a level where you can say that you understand them and that you see them. And that's gone a long way in my coaching.
I think one of the things lines you used is help me understand.
Mm-hmm.
I use that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started framing it like that, it felt awkward. That was my own issue, right? Because I was like, help me understand. Aren't I supposed to have all the answers? Aren't I supposed to know it all, right? Then the more I used it, the more I learned that it's actually a great way to get the other party to open up into the conversation. Now, you can't do it in a patronizing, you can't be like,
No.
well, help me understand this. It's that tone, right? And how you use it. And you've got to be really confident in yourself to use that. Because if
Yeah.
you're using that line but you already have the answer, the outcome you want,
Yes.
that's where it goes wrong.
Oh, Suki, I've had to work on that, right? Especially when you're new into leadership, it's all about, okay, I need to prove myself as a leader. I need to prove
Mm-hmm.
myself. I need to prove myself. I need to meet this. I need to do everything. And it can become, because you're very visible, right? Especially when you're a new leader in a role, you're very visible. Okay, so what are they going to do? How are
Yep.
they going to make this happen? How are they going to change this?
Yep.
So I've really had to learn. I'm a very self-aware person. My emotional intelligence, I've been tested, is very high, which can be a detriment in some cases, but it's definitely valuable when it comes to empathy,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Yep.
can sense when I can read the room very well. I've had to learn that even though I have all the answers, or I feel like I have all the answers, and that I just sometimes just want to do it myself because I know how to do it. If I'm ever going to help this person grow or help the team move to the target, I can't do that. I can't do that because I will end up be doing everything on my own and by
Yep.
myself.
Then why have a team?
Then why have a team? And then you burn out. And then as a leader, you burn out,
Yep.
right? So I've really had to coach myself that to take a step back and to allow them, give them the space to fail, right?
So yeah, no, totally
Yeah.
agree. It's interesting what you just said. You know, do it all yourself, especially
Mm,
when it's a situation where, I mean, this year's been tough for everybody
yeah.
in the industry.
Yeah.
You're in front of a client, for argument's sake, right?
Yeah.
And you see an opening and you know exactly how to close that, right?
Mm.
And the tendency, right, is,
Mm.
I can just picture that conversation happening. It's like, oh God, don't say that. You need to say this in your mind. You're willing that person along, right? Or you're
Yes.
like, okay, I need to interject here. So that takes me on to my next questions. Challenges like that. What unique challenges have you faced as a female leader, and how has empathy helped you navigate those challenges?
Well, I think you just mentioned a challenge right there, right? I am a natural closer and natural negotiator.
Yep.
And from my perspective in this economy, you don't get a lot of chances, right? Especially when you're in front of a client, you might have only that one chance to show up, provide value, and to close them. So how I've tried to deal with that challenge, because again, I can't always be the closer,
Nope.
right? If you truly are developing sophisticated sales people, they need to learn how to do everything from the open to the close. So how I've worked around that is it's my time. So having pre-meetings, before meetings, and literally coaching them through a close. So how I've had to empathize there is this. In the beginning of my career, I thought, you're a salesperson. I hired you. I'm paying you. You need to figure it out.
Yeah. And you should,
Right?
what do you mean you can't close? You should be.
You should be able,
Yeah.
I figured it out,
Yeah.
right?
And that's your job, not my job.
That's not my job. I
Yeah.
figured it out. I figured out how to get it A to Z, A to Z. And I have such a tremendous amount of curiosity and to get things done that I did everything I could in order to do what I had to do to close a deal, for example. What I am learning through empathy is that these are different times. Customers are more sophisticated. And yeah, you're a salesperson, you have experience in sales, but it's a different ballgame now.
Yep.
So I've had to use empathy to say, okay, no, I can't assume this person will know how to close this deal. Can't assume that. I don't want to micromanage, right? But I can't assume that they're going to be able to go in and close this deal. So what do I use? I use my time. I use my patience, which I've had to learn in order to help coach them through the scenario with consistency. And yeah, that's taken more time out of my time to do that, but it's resulting in positive results, I have to
Yeah.
say.
I guess the question going through my mind,
Sure.
putting myself in the salesperson's
Yeah.
shoes, how do you ensure they don't look at us as being micromanaged? Because
Yeah.
that seems to be, you know, especially this year, everyone that my team and I talk to, it feels like everyone, let me rephrase that. Oh, boss is micromanaging, boss is
Mhm.
micromanaging. I guess what I'm saying is, how do you find that balance between managing, coaching without the individual thinking they're being micromanaged? Because in my mind, there's a difference, but I think the lines have been blurred.
I don't know if I've mastered that, I'll be honest.
Oh, love it.
I
Love
think
the honesty.
I think I've gotten better. I'm a very ambitious, driven, sense of urgency person. I think anyone on my team, even new individuals on my team, can pick that up very, very quickly. How I manage that is by, again, it is in my positioning.
Yep.
I'm here with you. I want to win this with you,
Yep.
right? Let's do this together. Let's win this together. So show me how, like if a customer or a client asks this, how you're going to respond to that. Let's walk through it.
Yeah.
So I think again, it's in positioning. Instead of saying, you better close this, right? Tell me exactly what you're going to say. You see the difference?
Yes. Yep. There's a big difference.
There's a difference in how you're positioning, how you're with them and supporting them. I'm not motivated that way, right? I'm not motivated by, you got to do this, you better be doing this. I'm looking at your numbers, what's going on here, what's going on there. I'm not motivated like that. So I always have to put myself in the place where, okay, how do I feel empowered? How do I feel motivated? And then I do my best to apply that. Sometimes, especially this year, it might come across as micromanaging. And sometimes I'll set it up that way. Hey, listen, I'm not trying to micromanage, but we have to look at these numbers. And what I'm seeing, I'm not seeing the numbers. So
I,
walk me through this.
yeah, I think it's also important that we add in here for those people that are listening that feel like their leader is micromanaging them.
Yeah,
I always look at it like this. I can't control what you said, what you done, but I can choose how I receive that.
that's right.
Right? So I want anyone listening to this who feels like their leader, doesn't matter whether it's their team leader, manager, it doesn't matter, is micromanaging them. I want them to look at it and say, why am I choosing to receive this as micromanagement? Okay.
Right.
That's going to throw up a lot because I can lie to you, but I can't lie to myself. It's micromanagement because I haven't really been doing the activity, or I'm out of my depth, or I don't know, da 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 da, right? So then maybe it's not micromanagement. Maybe that's where you need to ask for help. Because I think if a lot more people looked at things like that, put themselves in their leaders' shoes, I would say a lot of people that think they're being micromanaged would realize they're not being micromanaged. But ultimately, if the business isn't collectively moving forward,
Right.
none of us are going to have a job.
You know how you mitigate micromanagement?
Go for it.
How transparent are you being in your messaging about the state of the organization.
Oh, okay.
How transparent, and that there's a balance to that too, right? You can't be like,
The ship's sinking.
the ship is sinking.
Jump.
You
We only
better
have
jump now.
Yeah, we only have
Right?
one life jacket, right? And I'm taking it.
Nice. Right? The ship is sinking.
Yeah,
Let's panic, everyone. Let's panic. There's chaos.
but you're
Right?
right.
You have to be, again, it's all about your simple messaging. I think if you as a leader are providing transparency, simple messaging to say these are I mean the numbers are the numbers. Like I
Yep.
can't skirt around the numbers.
Yeah.
These are the numbers. This is where we're at.
The deal either
Right?
closed or it didn't.
Exactly. So how are we collectively as a team going to do this? And
Yeah.
you all have a role to play here. We all have to be doing something to move the needle to this goal. This is the number, right? And this is where we're at. I think the more transparent you are about the state of your goal or the state of the target, the right people that want to grow and want to be there are not going to see it as micromanaging.
I agree. I have to wholeheartedly agree with you on that because they all recognize this is a business,
This is a business.
right? It's not a not for profit. So let me ask you this, and we've kind
Mhm.
of touched on it, but I want to give you an
Sure.
opportunity to elaborate a little bit more. How do you foster a sense of empathy in your team, especially
Mhm.
in a male dominated environment, to encourage that inclusivity and collaboration? We talked a little bit about it earlier, but let's explore that one a little bit more. The collaboration, how are you getting that? How are you getting that inclusivity? And actually, for this point, although you have salespeople, you run the salespeople, maybe it's collaboration from, look, recruits the other side of the same coin, right? So how do you get that collaboration going?
Very simple. First of all, back to the woman in a man's world, and maybe this is how this is my coping mechanism and how I survive. I don't think that. I think I am a person in a
Love it.
very driven, difficult industry. Now, do I sense some of the disparity? Yeah, I do. I feel it
Yep.
sometimes, but I don't let it run my ship. I don't let it shake the empathy piece. I think everyone needs empathy. I don't care if you're a man or a woman, who you are. Empathy should be in your DNA as a leader.
Yep.
And if you don't have it, then you shouldn't be a leader. So, how do I get collaboration? It's very simple. You need to take yourself out of your positioning. If you, in your communication and in your actions and your behavior, if you are truly coming from the point of view of this is what's best for the organization and this is what's best for our associates and our customers, you will foster that collaboration. As soon as it's coming from a position of self serving, collaboration doesn't happen. Courage doesn't happen. Feeling empowered doesn't happen. I always go back to how we're going to keep the organization moving, growing, how you are going to grow as an individual, how our customers are going to feel in the end, how our associates are going to get meaningful work. I've had to come to a point where sometimes you doubt yourself as a leader, right? It gets lonely
Yep.
sometimes. I've literally had to move that, especially this year. I've had to move that and really, in my positioning and my messaging and my communication, consistently talk about the good of the organizations, our customers, and our associates. And that positioning for me, along with some other personal things that I've worked on, I've seen the team turn a corner where I am seeing more collaboration. I am seeing more of them feeling empowered to make decisions. And I'm really proud of where
I,
we've
I
come.
I love that because pretty much in essence what you're saying is you've put yourself at the back. Sort of like imagine a queue, right? You
I've had
said,
to.
yeah, right at the back there. And it's doing that consistently though, right?
Yes.
That's the key. You can't just do it in one. If you think you can do this in one meeting, Houston, you got a problem, right? This takes repetitive,
Intentional, repetitive, a lot of self awareness. Again, if you don't have high emotional intelligence, I mean, there's ways that you can build that. You will struggle. You will struggle. It's not impossible, but yeah, you have to put yourself over here
Yeah.
or beside. I would say more beside than over here, but beside.
Well, if you because you've also, and the higher up the chain you are,
Yes.
the more critical it becomes,
Yes.
because your team reporting to you, so they know who you are on a day-to-day basis, and you've done the work consistently. Your structure, your process, everything is there. Now in comes another leader,
Yeah.
well, one of your bosses, right? And they just try to fake it till you make it. They're never going to get the buy-in.
People feel authenticity.
Yeah.
People know,
Years ago,
right?
I used to get told, years and years ago, God, I'm showing my age, when I came into this industry, when there was no such thing as ATS systems and social media and stuff. I remember
Hmm.
my bosses used to say to me, Suki, fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it. But that was, oh God, I sound like my mum now. Another generation. That was in the good old days, right? But we've evolved as an industry. We've evolved as people.
As people.
Workplaces evolved because that back then worked, right? That was the socially acceptable norm, right? Now
Yeah.
try giving that as leadership coaching advice. People are going to laugh at you.
No, that's dated.
Yeah,
That is
but
dated. People are so much more sophisticated. People, we're working now more than ever. People want to feel like they are supported at work. We spend a lot of time at work when you think about it. We
well, I'll
spend a
give you.
lot of time, especially our industry. We're
Oh
here a
God, yeah,
lot,
yeah.
right?
I'll give you an example. An individual I know, senior executive I know, she was interviewing for a job with a company directly, and she was interviewing with the CEO at the time.
Hmm.
And the CEO said to her, "Hey, you know what? This is going really well. I want you, so and so. I want you to meet so and so." And the candidate said, "No, I don't want that person to know that I'm looking." The CEO immediately turns around and says, and again, I'm paraphrasing, she turns around and she says, "Oh, let me guess, because he's pretty rude, isn't he? He's not really a nice person." This is in an interview. And in the same breath, this same CEO is telling this individual how she's all about her people. People are really important, right? People are really important. And in that, I don't know, let's say they're on the phone interview for an hour. She'd badmouthed one of her senior executives. She couldn't tell the name of a couple of the leaders. She said she wasn't sure what their names were. But in the same breath, she was talking about how she's a people person,
Hmm.
how leading with authenticity, wanting people not to have a work-life balance, treating people like people. In the same breath, she's throwing a couple of her leaders under the bus. The reason I bring this up is that is a case of somebody that read a book or was coached by somebody,
Yeah.
right? But
It
once you
does.
get talking, your natural bits come out. That fake it till you make it works for 5 minutes.
It works for 5 minutes. I think the fake it till you make it, it works only when you have to fake some self-confidence. Because as a leader,
Yep.
you better find it somewhere. And if you can't find it, then you need to fake it a little bit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Fair
Until
point.
you find it. But like you said, that doesn't last long. People, what's the Maya Angelou quote? People don't remember what you did. They remember how you made them feel.
Feel. Yeah.
That's the truth.
That no, that totally is. So on that, can you share a time when leading with empathy allowed you to make a positive difference to an individual? I was
Yeah.
going to say individual or team, but let's go individual because I know it's a cliche, but changing one life at a time, one
Hmm.
person at a time.
Hmm.
So share an example of how that helped. And I don't mean, oh, they hit target. That's not what I'm talking about. Because as leaders, we do a lot more than ensure somebody meets their financial goals.
Honestly, Suki, I can think of several examples of
Share them.
this year in my past life in another position. I wish my team was here or my past sales people that I've helped mentor and coach to tell you how I have. I think it's self serving to say how I have.
Give us an
Um,
example. Because there could
okay.
be somebody sitting here listening
Yeah.
to this and thinking, I think I'm doing it. And
Yeah.
again, we immediately go to, oh, well, so and so was underperforming. I done this and
Yeah.
now they're performing. That's really easy. But what about that one person that's struggling for whatever
Sure.
reasons, crap going on at home,
Yeah.
right?
I'll give you three examples
Go for it.
of what I've been told.
Okay.
One is someone from my past team that I had that I struggled. We struggled. Like I struggled with underperformance for this particular individual. And she came to me about 5 years later and she ended up being one of my clients.
Wow.
And she said to me, it's because of you that I'm here, right? You
Wow.
pushed me. You helped me understand where I needed to. And at the time, I'm thinking, oh, gee,
Oh, geez. There
I'm,
goes
not,
that client.
I'm on the dartboard, right?
Yeah.
She said to me, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here because she was an individual contributor now in a management role.
Wow. Position of power now, right?
Right. Another example is someone who was really struggling personally, like struggling, like with a lot of things. And she said to me, the only anchor I have right now is work.
Wow.
She was underperforming. I said, okay, I'm going to do everything I can to find you right now where your potential lies so that we can get the best out of you right now. Switch positions, banging it out.
There you go.
Right? Or I could have said, I don't care.
Yeah. Not my
You're
problem.
underperforming, you're out. And then most recently, I would say someone who has been in the industry for a long time. Just because you've been in the industry a long time doesn't mean you're going to survive this year.
No. No. I think it made it even harder, right?
Right? Because you
Yeah.
have all these ways that you do things.
Yeah.
I get it. And with a lot of coaching and a lot of empathy and a lot of direct feedback, this person has told me that they thank me for me helping them and also to be seen. That she actually said that I know you see me.
Wow.
And then I think there's probably other examples, but again,
Yeah.
if they're not shared with me, then I don't know. But those are the ones that I know.
But just
That
listen to the things you
Mhm,
just said there, especially the
mhm,
last two. Work was the only anchor that individual had,
mhm,
right? You could have
mhm,
cut that tie and
mhm.
set afloat, drown, but you didn't. Let her drown, but you
Yeah,
didn't, right? And the last one, you saw me,
saw me,
right?
right? She
That's
was
not
struggling.
measured on a P&L somewhere, right? Nobody measures that. Leadership, nobody measures that. Now, okay, I know people are listening saying, Suki, but we still got to make money. I get it. I get
Yeah,
it.
I know.
That. But what we're talking about, this is a tool in the toolbox, right? You don't need a hammer each and every time.
Hey, being in sales is the best way to practice empathy as a leader
Yeah.
because you have the black and white, the numbers. We got to
Yep.
get here. So you need to help me help you get here because like there's no hiding from that.
Yep.
So it really pushes you to as a leader, as a sales leader to be kind, to be transparent, to also have to be empowering at the same time. But if you literally have to get the best out of the sales potential of that person,
Yeah.
it,
No,
it's
I totally
very
understand.
challenging.
So I thought that was going through my mind.
Yeah.
How do you balance empathy with assertiveness, right? Because
Yeah.
I can see people mixing the two up and it
Yeah.
is sort of like muddied waters there. So, how do you balance that empathy with that assertiveness? Because if you actually think of assertiveness and empathy as silos, they just don't mix. They're
Yeah.
used interchangeably all the time. How do you balance that?
Again, I think it's consistency. I think it's being transparent. It's always come, and I learned this from another leader that I had, coming from a point of curiosity. If you're always coming from a point of curiosity in working with your team, I'm hoping that that comes across that you want to try, you're seeking to understand. You're seeking to understand. And that, for example, Because I can be assertive and say, you are not hitting your goal. Like, this is the number. You are not hitting this goal. Help me understand what's happening. So, would you call that assertive?
No, to
Am I?
me, you're just being clear.
I'm being
Yeah.
clear,
Yeah.
right? I'm being
Yeah.
clear. You are not hitting this goal. Help me understand. Again, that's I would think that's empathy. Help me understand what's going on. I'm not saying, well, you haven't reached your goal. That's okay. We'll talk about it next week,
Yeah.
right? Just keep doing what you're doing. I could say that.
Yeah.
That's definitely not assertive.
No.
So what I'm saying is, this is the goal. You're not reaching your goal. Help me understand why, because we got to get there, and I'm going to help you get there. I'm going to do everything I can to help you get there. So again, I think you can be transparent. You can be like firm and direct, but empathetic at the same time. I do believe there is that you can achieve that balance,
I think it's your
especially in
tone
sales.
then as well, right?
It's
Because
tone, of
it's
course.
tone. Like the way you just said that to me, I didn't see that as assertive. I was like, yeah, just being
Some
clear.
people could. Some people
Oh, some
could.
people do though, but it goes back to what I said earlier. How am I choosing to receive what you're saying?
If
Right?
you
Because
are
the
in
truth of the matter
sales,
is that message is very clear. We
yeah,
do have to hit a certain outcome,
this is it.
right? None of us are going to
See,
have a job otherwise.
I'm lucky because I'm in sales. And I think naturally, a salesperson that wants to work on their craft, because it's a craft,
Yep.
and wants to get better and wants to grow will appreciate that I'm giving them direct feedback because I want to help them get there because I cannot do this on my own.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that being direct with a mix of empathy is helping them get there. That's how I roll.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, at the end of the day, anyone listening to this, whether they're a leader wanting to flex and change up their leadership style and understand empathy a little bit more and what have you, or you're somebody sitting there and you're now listening to this and thinking of your leader, ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're choosing to receive the other individual in the context that it's meant, right? You're not going to see it as, oh my God, micromanagement, abusive leadership, things like that. You're not, because when you get rid of all the fluff, right? Yeah, at the end of the day, you've either hit your target or you haven't, right? So whereas
Exactly.
whereas if you've got a leader that is saying, I'm not even going to acknowledge the fluff. I should rephrase that. Fluff is a wrong word. Not going to acknowledge the other pieces you got going on in your life, which are very important to you. That's poor leadership, right? So, okay, I know we're coming up to time, but I've got
Yeah.
one quick question for you. Someone that's listening here and I want to explore this leading with empathy a little bit more. Where do they start? How did you start? How did your journey start?
First of all, and I know this might sound a little, I don't know, but philosophical, but I believe it. You need to have empathy for yourself first.
Ah, good point.
You need to understand yourself. What are you saying to yourself all the time? What are you telling yourself? Are you being good to you? Are you being honest with yourself? Again, that comes with a lot of self awareness that you need as a leader. You need a lot of self awareness. So I've had to work on that. I've had to work on what I'm telling myself, how, and also, again, how I like to be managed. I am lucky that I have a leader that leads this way.
Yep.
I am lucky that I have a leader that lets you fail and is going to watch you and help you get back up. Okay. So I want to say that for first and foremost is that if
Yep.
I didn't have my support, if I didn't have leadership that supports me, then I wouldn't be able to give myself the space to do this. Just want to make that clear.
Yep.
However, you have to find a way to be empathetic to yourself first. When you are real about that, then that empathy will become easier for you.
Wow. You're right. Because if you can't do something for yourself,
Yep,
how can you do it for others?
you can't. Or if you're always hard on yourself and judgmental about yourself, or constantly, because I'll say this, as a woman, this is something that we do. I
Yeah.
think there's a fact out there about
Yeah.
not self-sabotage, what's it called?
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So as a woman, that can seep through a lot. So, and as a young woman leader, you need to keep that in check. So you need to have empathy for yourself. You need to find coping mechanisms for yourself too, to keep you at peace as much as possible and real. I do a lot of yoga. I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of working out. That's my thing. I
Yep.
love to work out. And then you need to check in on your people, man.
Yeah.
You need to be real, and you need to get to know your people.
As you were talking, I'm actually going to put this in the show notes. The podcast episode that's being released next week, a lady called Zeba, the whole podcast is how you talk to yourself.
Yes.
Right? As leaders,
Critical.
that empathy, how do your word matters. And that's what I heard her speak at Staffing World earlier this year in Nashville. And I sat there, I was like, what a fantastic message. So I'll definitely link that in the show notes. Listen,
Good.
Andrew, thank you ever so much for your time. Is there any final closing thought, comment you want to make?
No, just, don't let fear or imposter syndrome or the economy get you down. If you feel like you're made to be a leader, do it. But know that you're going to go through a lot of self-awareness to get there, but it's worth it. It's worth it when you hear those stories of how you've impacted people and how you've helped them grow. So, yeah.
Thank you ever so much for your time.
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate this. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Talent Titans, brought to you by Recruitment Professional Forum, where they're building a grassroots community for professionals and leaders in the recruitment industry to collaborate, advocate, and advance the profession. If you liked or were inspired by what you heard, make sure to follow, subscribe, and even leave a review. It lets more talented recruiters like you find the show. Until next time, keep on being a talent titan.